Could the Yankees be targeting Cody Bellinger? Yeah, according to Jon Heyman, very distinct possibility. Part of it's because there's not a whole lot of offensive firepower in free agency this year. And then the other thing is what you and I know is that the guy can play. He can hit. And we're going to talk about that today here on the Cubs Baseball channel. If you're not part of our roster, hey, we're trying to get to 2,000 of you guys. That's a pretty impressive roster of people that know the Cubs and love to comment on them. We appreciate all you guys for being part of our channel. If you're not a member yet, subscribe. It's free. Like, give us a thumbs up if you enjoy the videos, and hit the bell so you know when we're going to drop a new show. And then the Tennessee Smokies, the Cubs AA affiliate, they won their first championship in 45 years. Cubs fans know how painful that drought can be. Well, it's over, and the Smokies want to share some of that championship swag with you guys. Check them out, smokiesbaseball.com/store. What do you say, everybody? I'm Mick Gillespie. Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel, and let's talk about Cody Bellinger. Could he be on the move to the Yankees? You know, there's some stories out there right now, Sports Illustrated kind of starting to hint that there's a possibility that it's the Yankees that are going to be one of the first teams to make a push. I could see San Francisco being one of those teams as well, maybe the Mets. There's teams that are going to want that type of production. The Cubs are going to be in this mix as well. But how comfortable is Jed Hoyer going to be paying or overpaying or really overpaying for Bellinger? I think that's the question right now. What's his market value? Well, that's going to be determined by how much money teams are willing to pay him. We know what his value is, and that's because he was such a great player on this year's Cubs team. But Jon Heyman, very respected guy, New York Post, been reading his work for a long time. He's one of the best in the business, I think, as far as breaking stories and covering baseball. And here's his quote right here. To the end, the most obvious free agent heavily to pursue remains Cody Bellinger in a market short of obvious offensive stars. So this tells me a couple of things, right? First off, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's in New York. He does his research. He's saying that, you know what, he feels like the Yankees are going to go after this guy. Makes sense. I mean, that's kind of been the Steinbrenner Yankee way for a long time. And I mean, really, that even goes back before Steinbrenner. But, you know, the Yankees have always been in pursuit of the Reggie Jacksons and, you know, Roger Marises. It's just guys that they can bring in that are going to make an instant impact. Dave Winfield was one of those guys. Paul O'Neill. I mean, you can go all the way back. And this Yankees team finished one game below the Cubs this year. Yet they ended up over 500 and a really talented, young, aggressive, fun to watch American League East. And they feel like it's been a disastrous season. And they got to go out and make any kind of move to get this team back on track again. You know, and that's why you got to love the Yankees. The expectations are so high. And when you have high expectations, you know, the way that you reach them is to keep striving to reach them, right? Instead of settling for mediocrity or slightly above mediocrity. So I respect the Yankees for that. They've always kind of been the evil empire to a lot of people. And me too. But at the same time, you got to respect what that franchise has been able to do with all 27 championships. And Cody Bellinger may be a good fit for them. I mean, who knows? He'd be a great fit for just about any team in baseball that needs productions. He played 100 that needs production. He played 130 games this year, had the injury, making, an effort on a ball, came back and was even better than he was before. He was the catalyst to the Cubs turnaround. Looked like he got winded towards the end of the season. And when the Cubs took a dive, it kind of surrounded him, slowing down a bit. But when you look at the total body of work, he hit 307 for the year. He had 26 home runs, 97 runs batted in. And I love this one too. Total bases, 262 total bases. The guy was all over the place. It wasn't just the offensive numbers, though, that Yankees and other teams would have to look at and go, you know what, we could really appreciate this guy. Anthony Rizzo, former Cub, had some concussion issues with the Yankees. he missed a bulk of the season. Well, you could put Bellinger at first base, and honestly, not going to lose a whole lot of offensive production. Now, Rizzo is a much better defensive first baseman than pretty much every first baseman in baseball, but Bellinger can hold his own over at the bag. So like him there. Plus, you got him in the outfield. He can play center. If you can play center, you can play the corner spots. But the Yankees, they've got the Aaron Judges and Stantons, and they seem to always have another guy that's going to come in and hit a bunch of home runs. And you throw Bellinger in that lineup, and it starts to look like the Dodgers a few years ago, where it's like an all-star team all the way through their lineup, and I think that's what they're after. Bellinger loved his time with the Cubs, and I've seen that a lot in the comment section. And, he went to social media and thanked Chicago, loved Chicago. How could you not? Loved the Cubs. How could you not? He fit in so well. It was a 1-year, $17 million deal. His agent is Scott Boris. They're going to try to get every single red penny out of whatever team that is going to sign them. This isn't, to me, going to be about, hey, you know what? We loved Chicago. This guy's going to try to make as much money as he can. And the way that they look at it is, well, if we take less of a deal, we're hurting other players down the line. That's what they say. I don't buy into that. I don't know that the whole world revolves around getting every single red penny out of a contract. But I also am not saying that I'm above that or any of us are above that either. I mean, if that's what your goal is, you're playing baseball to make money, then obviously you should be in pursuit of that, right? I guess. I mean, money doesn't make a good fit. I watch Javi Baez and that Tigers uniform, and I just don't feel like he's happy. That just is my opinion, watching a guy that we all know and love from his time in Chicago, but he just doesn't play with the same passion that he did when he was with the Cubs, and that could be getting older as well. But just because you get a lot of money doesn't make the situation the best. But Cody Bellinger would certainly fit in with the Yankees. He won't have to shave. You don't have to cut his hair. Just show up, play some ball. I think all of us are hoping, though, that the Cubs are able to match that money. And maybe they can figure out a way with different incentives to keep him around. But they're not going to get a 1-year, $17 million deal out of this guy. He proved that he's back. He's going to win the comeback player of the year, and he deserves it. So that's where we are right now. But I just thought that with Jon Heyman kind of saying the Yankees are a player, doesn't surprise any of us, but just be prepared, because the Cubs are probably going to have to look for alternatives. And one of those alternatives to me was Juan Soto. Padres had a disappointing season. They spent a lot of money to be a team that really, in my opinion, didn't contend. I know they came on strong right at the very end of the season, and there's a cosmetic look to that record that doesn't match having Yu Darvish and Blake Snell and Juan Soto and Machado, and you go through that team, they should be a lot better than they are. But it takes the other guys too to win. It takes the Travis Woods and the CJ Edwards, the Albert Elmoras to win, not just, the Matt Caesars. It's not just having the star players. It's a team sport, and those guys, they're important too, and sometimes when you get too many stars, you don't have that cohesiveness that it takes to be successful. And we've seen that over the years. You got to have those guys, but then you also have to have the guys, the glue guys, the effort guys, the guys who, were in the clubhouse. I can remember Chris Bryant always saying that Tommy La Stella made him feel good about himself. Hey, man, you're a really great baseball player. The guy at the time was one of the best. He was, rookie of the year and an MVP back then, but he still needed to hear that, because we're all humans, right? And the Padres didn't have that. They're going to be dropping salary. They're going to be making trades. They're going to try to rebuild their farm system, which they decimated with all the deals they made. And we'll see what happens. But I could see the Cubs being a player for, a Juan Soto. We've talked about Pete Alonso. Is David Stearns going to be willing to trade Alonso after he made that deal in Milwaukee? That really, I think, tainted his tenure there, but it could have been a financial deal too, where he's looking at the fact that the Brewers are a really small market team. And, they're going, well, if we don't trade this guy to the Padres, then we're going to have to pay him and we might lose him. And this is when the value is the highest. And we got this guy that can slide in and close games. There's a lot more to it than just I'm making a deal here. But in New York, you don't have to worry about that. You got the money. So you really want to trade the polar bear to the Cubs? Well, we'll find out. What would they want back? Pete Crow Armstrong? Hey, guys, we gave you Pete. We want him back. So it's going to be fun to see how the Cubs play this, who they're willing to move. They got a lot of talent in the minor league system and depth. I think a lot of you guys felt like I felt that one of the real issues I had with David Ross was when the young players came up, they didn't succeed. And I put some of that on him. Some of that's on the farm system. Some of that's on the player. But some of that's on the environment that's created when those guys get there. I mean, I think there's enough blame to go around. But he's apprehensive to play these guys. So maybe if you're going to keep him as your manager, maybe the solution is you start trading these guys and bring veterans in. They'd rather play Trey Mancini and Eric Hosmer at first than Matt Mervis, coming out last year. Well, none of those guys did well, but at least with Matt Mervis, he's someone that could potentially grow into something, so those are the things I'm looking at. And I'm saying, okay, what's the next move here? So it's going to be interesting to see how the Cubs kind of put things together and if they're able to make a deal to keep Bellinger. I don't think it hurts that he had a great time in Chicago and that Cubs fans love him. We all love the way that he played. But at the same time, when Scott Boras is your agent, I'm trying to remember the last time Scott Boras had a client that said, okay, you know what? I'm going to take this deal, even though it's not the most money, because this is really where I want to be. And I'm not saying it hasn't happened. It may have. I just don't know when that did happen. So you guys let me know what you think. Love y'all in the comments section, telling me what you think about this team and the future of the Cubs. And for those of you guys that go and hang out in the bleachers, I want to come do that with you and drink some cold beers next season and talk Cubs baseball. But thanks for being on the Cubs baseball channel. If you're not a subscriber, please be one. And throw out some recommendations. What do you guys want to talk about? What direction do you want these shows to go? Because we're in a stretch right now. We're really looking for topics, and I respect you guys a lot. So let me know what you think. Thanks for being here, and go Cubs.